Hey everyone, how's it going? You're watching Kohi Lumpur. In today's video, I wanted to talk to you about a loser mindset that is holding a lot of people back, and one of those people might be you. It's called the I've never tried it, but I know it's gonna fail mindset. And I like to call this the NPC employee mindset because I've only ever noticed it in employees and never entrepreneurs. I'll explain a little bit why later on in this video as to why that probably is the case. The first and foremost and probably the biggest, closest example is my very own dad, whom I recently talked to over Christmas 2024 and Chinese New Year 2025. Some of you may know that I have had a shitty relationship with my dad and I'm not on talking terms with him, but the person that I'm dating found out at the same time that I did that he had some sort of cancer, and she told me, oh, you gotta go see him, he's your dad, and blah, blah, blah. So I was kind of obliged to do that. During one of the conversations with him, he asked me how I was doing and what I was doing with my life, and I told him that I was working on starting a business, for the lack of a better description for what I'm trying to do in the last 1 year. And he said, why do you want to start your own business? You already have a job, don't you? You have a career, don't you? I said, yeah, but I don't want to fuck around and find out at the age of 50 and get laid off at that time when I would have kids' colleges to pay for, potentially a mortgage to pay for, and medical and retirement savings to build up. And I just want to decouple myself potentially forever from ever participating in that abusive relationship that a lot of people accept, called the employee-employer relationship. And he told me at that point that you've never run a business before, you're gonna fail. That's really rich coming from someone who was barely ever around physically with his kids as they grew up, because he was busy spending almost all day at the office, even the weekends, and if it wasn't the office, it was the golf course. And he doesn't even know his kids that well, especially me, because he was just too busy beating us down in front of his friends. One of the things that he used to tell his friends at the golf course at work was that this guy referring to me, is totally useless like his mom. He will never make it in life. He spends so many hours in front of the computer doing I don't know what, and trust me, he will never make it. That's what he used to tell everyone, word for word, because some of you may know that I've dual dash cams in here and permanent large capacity storage in here. It's called videographic memory, not even photographic memory. So he asked me what kind of business I wanted to start, and that was kind of another lovely comedic moment, because I had to tell him, because I don't have any filter, that I was trying to get into this stock trading challenge that I've told you guys about. And he asked me, why are you doing this? Because you've never even traded stocks before, have you? You should just try to work on getting a promotion at work. You should try to get a better job in this higher ranking positions, higher ranking companies, blah, blah, blah. And he starts talking about all his friends who are now working as directors and whatever VPs and all these high ranking positions in corporate everywhere. And that's really rich, because he's told all of these people that I'm useless and I will never make it in life, but he's telling me about those same people. What am I going to do? Go talk to them as the most useless person who would never make it in life and ask them, hey, do you have a job that reports directly into you as like vice president's assistant or some shit? Like, the same case actually applies when I tell this story to my friends who are my age. It's not just my dad, right? A lot of them start pulling up the statistic that I've told you guys before in previous videos about, which is 95% of traders who try, fail, and end up losing their money and quitting. So obviously you're not gonna make it, because what makes you think that you're gonna be part of the 5% and not part of the 95% of people who try to trade and fail? And they've obviously not done any research before when they say this statement, because they're just quoting something that they've heard said by someone else before, because I've heard this multiple times and it seems to come from somewhere that I haven't really bothered to look for what the source of this 95% statistics is. But at best, they're going onto Google, doing like a 5-second search, and they're reading off like the preview of the first result and not even clicking on it. They're just reading on the search results page, and that's where they found the statement, and they're just repeating it as if it's a fact. And I've explained it before in a previous video. You can watch it. I'll link it down in the description below, that most of those 95% of traders really fail because they're mostly please bros who expect to be spoon-fed information. And if you don't have any drive to even find like basic information, like what brokerage you should use, what pairs the person you're watching on YouTube is trading, what indicators they're using, blah, blah, blah. Like, how are you ever going to succeed? You're asking basic questions that you could find answers to if you even spend 2 to 4 hours an afternoon on a weekend doing any research whatsoever. And my question to those people is always, have you tried it before? And they say, no, but that's what the statistics say. And I usually repeat the question because I didn't ask if they read someone's opinions on Reddit or the Chinese Reddit Xiaohongshu. I didn't ask if they heard it from their friends or family or read it on social media or the mainstream news. I asked them, have you tried it before? And the best part is most of these people usually, as part of this loser mindset that they have, it's kind of like a combo meal where you get your fries and Coke with your burger. They also refuse to admit that they're wrong or even the possibility that they're wrong. They're always like, oh, trust the science, bro. Do your research, bro. You'll find out what I'm saying is true if you did your research, bro. I didn't ask if you did the research. I asked you if you've tried it yet. In the case of my dad, he's one of those people who has only ever worked in a single company for most of his life. He spent something like from his late 20s or early 30s working in the same company for 30 years until his retirement. He's never started a business before, not even on the side, right? Because some people have an employee job, but they have a side hustle. He's never started a business before in his life. He's never traded any stocks. He's never even bought any stocks because he says that he doesn't want to lose any money. The only stocks that he's ever owned are stock that was given to him by the company that he was working for until his retirement. That's it. And most of these friends whom have told me this statistic of 95% of people who try blah, blah, blah and fail, they've also only ever worked as employees before. I don't believe that any of them have even started like a side hustle, made a side income, side business on the side to supplement their income as an employee. And this mindset not just applies to business, but personal stuff as well. So I'm very open about the fact that the reason that I relocated from Europe, I abandoned my entire life that I built up there for years to move back to this part of the world, that's Southeast Asia, Singapore and Malaysia, is because of dating. I had a 0.6% match rate the entire time when I was living in Europe. What that means in plain English was that for every 1,000 right swipes or yes clicks that I had on those dating apps, I would get at best 6 matches, and realistically it was more like 1 match a year that I got. Literally 1 match a year. And when I told this to people that I knew or what I considered friends at the time, a lot of them told me that, hey, maybe it's because of your photos or your dating profile description. You just need to type better text, bro. Or you just need to be the best version of yourself, bro. Or maybe it's the messages that you're sending, bro, without even like giving a shit about the fact that I just told them a few seconds before that I was getting like 1 match a year. So where are all these matches that I was sending all the wrong messages to if I didn't have any matches in the first place? And at some point, this just became like, maybe you're just ugly. Have you ever thought about that? That's what 2 people actually told me in my face. And these are not strangers on the road. These are people that I consider at the time to be friends. And of course, it didn't really help that I had moved to the most liberal city in Europe because I didn't really know any better at the time. And most of the people who were telling me these things were either the blue-haired social justice warrior types and or Asian women. But thankfully, I had a friend who is an Asian woman, so an exception to the norm at the time, who was from Hong Kong, and she had been living in Europe for a period of time, and she had moved back, and she told me that maybe you should try out dating apps in Asia because I had some shitty luck as a woman. She had a lot of matches, but most of them were people who wanted to have one-night stands with her. She said that she had better luck when she moved back to Hong Kong and she started using those same dating apps, and she later met the person whom she would eventually marry on those dating apps. And coincidentally or not, she was running her own business at the time. She was pulling in somewhere between like $8,000 to $10,000 US a month and basically could work remote before it was cool. So I took her advice, and the next time I was back in Singapore and Malaysia for a vacation, I tried out these same dating apps with the exact same profile pictures, the exact same profile text, and I got something between like an 8 to 10% match rate. And the reason why I started logging all of this information is because I told this kind of verbally to some people that I knew in Europe, and they told me it was just luck. Maybe you just need to improve yourself to increase your match rate, blah, blah, blah. And at that point in time, I did ask them, have you tried it before? Have you tried dating as an Asian male, which is, I will tell you, one of the most screwed over groups after black women? Asian men are literally at the second last bottom position of the dating totem pole in the Western Hemisphere, especially in Europe, right? Have you tried it before as an Asian guy dating in Europe and then trying it out in Asia? Because I have, and now I have the data to prove all of this. And they told me that it wouldn't change, that, thinking about moving back to Asia would not change a single thing, because haven't you ever considered that maybe you're just ugly? And being a person who has had a lot of these kinds of, let's say, experiences before with naysayers, I didn't take any of those people seriously. I didn't bother to listen to their advice. I listened to the data, like you said, right? Trust the science. So I moved back to Southeast Asia, spent 2 weeks in quarantine in a hotel because of the current situation at the time. And by the time I got out of quarantine, I had a long list of matches that I was supposed to go on dates with, that I kind of jokingly, kind of seriously told a friend at the time that I might need a personal assistant to line up my schedule, because there's so many matches. I literally got like a 10 to 12% match rate during that time spent in quarantine. Those 2 weeks, every 100 right swipes or yes clicks that I made, I would get like 10 to 12 matches. Huge increase, a literal 20x increase from the years that was spent getting that miserable ass 0.6% match rate in Europe. A lot of people don't believe me, but I'll make a separate video to show the data. And I also have a video. I took a video of the endless list of matches that I was getting because people refused to believe that my life had actually changed for the better after my move. So why do people have this mindset? Why do they believe that either they are going to fail or other people are going to fail despite them having not even tried any of this stuff before? In my opinion, this is the direct result, the product of indoctrination from the education systems that we've all been brainwashed in ever since we were young kids. Most of these people who say these things aren't stupid. They are what the internet calls midwits, who are people who fall in the middle of this, this bell distribution curve. And they're like kind of like the middle section of the bell. So these are people with like 100 to 120 IQ typically. And usually they're university educated. They have degrees. And most of them have good office jobs, which is why I said at the beginning that most of these people seem to be employees. And the education systems in most countries have drilled into people's heads that we should be doing the research by citing sources, right? And trusting the science. So it's all about studying and rarely ever about doing. So these people go about citing their sources without even having verified whatever those sources say for themselves, because they believe all these reputable sources like research papers and the mainstream media. How could the mainstream media ever be wrong? They would never ever lie to us. Or some YouTuber or TikToker that they follow who has like 1 million followers. They have so many followers, they must be right. When a lie is repeated enough times, it often becomes the truth. Just like that one thing that we were all told to get, right? That would protect us from getting sick, protect us from dying, protect us from getting into the ICU. And as a bonus to end this video, I'll tell you about this one guy who actually falls a little bit outside of the example. He tried something and then he gave up. I was talking to someone over the course of Chinese New Year who was talking to me about trading. The conversation eventually led to how he had tried crypto trading and he gave up on it. And when I pried it a little bit further, what he had done was he bought this, not even shitcoin, he had invested money into some kind of like savings account, and then they had converted his savings from USD into some kind of like crypto token, which immediately went to zero, and they lost a bunch of money, him and his wife. And so he got burned once, and he said that he's reluctant to ever try trading trading crypto again. And this is the kind of mindset that keeps people permanently employed as employees in their job, because they either never try it because they heard that most people who try it fail. So what's the point? I'm not going to try it because most people fail. Or they're maybe a little bit better than that and they try something and then they get burnt once and then they never try it again. And it's funny because I was kind of told the same advice, and I never used to believe this myself. It was when I was in college and I was this awkward kid and I was trying to get like a girlfriend. And one of the things that my roommate and my other friends would tell me was that you got to try, bro. You got to go up to that girl, ask for her number, and ask her out on a date. Because if you never asked in the first place, if you don't go up to her and tell her this, like, hey, do you want to go out with me? Hey, can you give me your number? You will never succeed in the first place. If you've never tried, there's going to be a 100% chance of failure. If you do try, you might fail, but guess what? There might be a chance that you might succeed. What makes you think that you're going to fail even before you've tried? What if you go up to that girl whom you say that she's not going to go out with me, and she gives you her number if you actually asked, and she actually goes out with you on a date? You wouldn't know if you don't even try those things in the first place. And those people are absolutely right. And that saying applies for both business and personal. So don't let naysayers get you down. Don't let people tell you what to do when they've never tried them themselves. And one thing that I would encourage you and everyone else to ask whenever the next time someone tells you that you're trying to try this thing, but you're going to fail because most people fail at whatever it is that you're trying to do, ask them, have you tried it before? Have you tried it before? And when they start saying things like, oh, I've never tried it before, but that's what the science says, ask them again, have you tried it before? That's it for today, and I hope you learned something. See you all in the next video. Goodbye.